everyone, I'm Carolyn. Welcome back to another episode of As I See It. And if you clicked on this thumbnail because you saw my face, just let you know this is not my RV channel. This is my political channel because I'm passionate about politics and social issues. And some of you said, hey, why don't you start another channel? We like hearing from you. And other people complained on my RV channel. We don't want to hear your politics. So here we am. Here we are. On my As I See It channel, I want to talk about Trump's business success and Trump the businessman, and more specifically bankruptcy today. I was out and about today and I happened to run into an old family friend, and this person is a contractor. We had a really good conversation. I hadn't seen this guy in years, and we had a really good conversation about how the system is rigged against the little guy, and how as a small business owner, sometimes it can be really hard to get paid by these rich people who just think that they can do whatever they want. And we even talked about student loans. His daughters took out student loans, and I mentioned that I'm still paying mine at 57 years old. And he was like, didn't you get those taken care of? And I said, no, mine still are there. And so the whole time we're having this conversation, I'm like, is he a Democrat? Is he a Republican? Is he a Trumper? I really couldn't tell. And I was like, please don't go MAGA on me. One thing he did say, though, and we're probably an hour into the conversation at this point, and I like this guy. I respect this guy. I can tell just from the conversation we had that we have a lot in common. What he said is, I will say what I like about Trump, though, is that he's a businessman. He's a successful businessman, because he didn't give me any indication that he was voting for him. Just that's one thing I like about him. And I looked at him and I'm like, well, he's a businessman who declared bankruptcy a bunch of times. He's like, yeah, I know. I was like, he bankrupted a casino. Do you know how hard it is to bankrupt a casino? And he's like, yeah, I know. And he's like, but that's what I like. He used the system. He screwed the big guy by declaring bankruptcy. That's what I like about that. Not what I like about him, but he was like, but that's it. He's like, yeah, but don't you see? He screwed the big guy. He screwed the big guy. He screwed the banks. He screwed everybody. He used the system to his advantage. So we had been having this whole conversation about how the system is rigged against the little guy, about how no matter what, it's the big business, it's banks, it's ginormous corporations who have all the control, and how we, the little people, are basically just cogs in a wheel that feeds that. And so his thinking and me being able to have a face-to-face conversation with him allowed me to kind of process his train of thought. His thinking isn't that Trump declaring bankruptcy was a failure of business, but that it was a strategic move, a smart business move to, yes, benefit himself, but also to screw the big guy. And that got me thinking, if that's how the majority of Trump supporters think, that bankruptcy isn't a business failure, at least not in his case, but a way to screw the bigger guys. And I think a lot of Trump supporters think that. It's not a business failure. He just took advantage of a system to benefit him. And if you think about Trump rhetoric, I'm for you. I am here. I'm the only one who's going to fight for you against the deep state, against the big guy, against the crooked Bidens and the crooked left. And he demonstrated that by declaring bankruptcy, by using the system. You follow? Does that make sense? So here is what I started thinking. How do we turn that around? Number one, how do we turn it around to convince Trump supporters he didn't do that as a FU to the banks? He did it for self-preservation, and he did it because he had to. He didn't do it because it was a tool available. He did it because he ran out of daddy's money because he's ineffective as a business owner. We know that, right? So my first thought was, how do we convince Trump supporters of that? That these weren't smart strategic moves, he had to declare bankruptcy because he's a horrible business person. But then my thoughts evolved into, no, we can never convince Trump supporters anything negative about Trump because that's just who they are. They're not going to ever believe it. So instead, here we have Joe Biden using his time in office as president to cap insulin prices, to cancel student loan debt. F you to big pharma, F you to big banks, right? Brought oil prices down by overproducing oil. We are now producing more crude oil than the United States or any country in the world has ever produced. So what happens when you overproduce is you flood the market, bringing down the price. So he said, F you to big oil, flooded the market. Well, and what I find interesting is that nobody's hearing that. Nobody is hearing the message of how Joe Biden is screwing the big guy. Joe Biden is putting the stinger to the big guy, to big pharma, to big banks. And in fact, he's also trying to pass legislation to cap late fees and overdraft fees. Late fees and overdraft fees only hurt poor people. They don't hurt big people. What's a $7 overdraft fee to a millionaire? But to somebody who's making minimum wage, it's a lot. I've been there. So Joe Biden is actively using his presidency to screw the big, powerful forces that are rigged against us, the little guy. He is out there fighting, doing that for us every day, and nobody is hearing that. Nobody is seeing it. And maybe that's because we're not marketing it correctly. If Trump's bankruptcy is a screw you to big banks, then why isn't Joe Biden canceling student debt a screw you to the system? Why isn't Joe Biden capping insulin prices a screw you to big pharma? The fact is, Donald Trump declared bankruptcy to save his ass. Period. Joe Biden is screwing, if you want to put it in those terms, because that seems to resonate with some people. He is out there screwing big farm, big bank, big oil to benefit everybody. How did Trump declaring bankruptcy benefit anybody but himself? How are Trump's policies, even when he was president, how did any of that benefit anybody but himself? Millions of people died of COVID because of how he managed it. Millions. Taxes are going up on the middle class for like the next 5 years because of the tax cuts he gave to billionaires and millionaires like himself. Trump is transactional. Nothing he does is for anyone but himself. While Joe Biden is fighting the fight, saying screw the big guy. I'm sick and tired of this system being rigged against the middle class and the poor, and I'm going to use policy to change that. Joe Biden is the one who is really screwing the big guy on our behalf. It's not Donald Trump. That's how I see it. How do you see it? Leave your thoughts below.